Remember that classic John Carpenter horror film Halloween? Well, what if we do that again, but make Michael Myers the good guy?
Oh shit.
Halloween, not to be confused with Halloween or Halloween, tells the story of Halloween with Michael Myers, not to be confused with Michael Myers, or Mike Myers. A child played by Diego Ferrer who has a rather troubling and not so subtle upbringing, leading him to a life of neglect and then murder, growing up to become the Undertaker. Confined to an insane asylum, not even his psychiatrist Dr. Loomis, played by Malcolm McDowell, can stop him from breaking free and hunting down his long-lost sister Laurie Strode, played by Scout Taylor Compton and her friends.
Come on, it's ridiculous.
Because Hollywood clearly didn't see the cinematic brilliance that was Halloween Resurrection, the future of the franchise now raised a question mark. Initially, Freddy vs. Jason was a big hit, so Dimension Films commissioned for a crossover with Hellraiser. It would have followed a young Michael Myers opening up the Lament configuration, becoming possessed with Samhain, fleeing from hell, which explains why he's immortal, and then Pinhead and the Cenobites would have been hot on his tail. Because wouldn't you have taken Pinhead cruising after Michael Myers on the M6 driving a Lamborghini seriously?
I'm sorry.
This never materialised as the producers just couldn't agree. Clive Barker wasn't interested in having Myers and Pinhead face off, and instead considered Michael being a sadomasochistic sexual pervert and serial killer, which would have already been enough to gain Pinhead's interest. So they did what all responsible studio heads do in this situation and head to the internet. They ran a poll online and 52% of the voters disapproved of the project, and Mustafa Akkad also wasn't interested, so the idea was canned. Akkad was hell-bent on making another sequel. Initially, Josh Stolberg also wanted a Hellraiser crossover but was shut down, before pitching a project called Halloween Bad Blood, which would have brought back the character of Jamie Lloyd. You know, this one! Another idea was called Halloween Retribution, which would have begun the film with Myers killing Busta Rhymes' character right at the start. Not interested.
Fuck you.
It would have also followed Laurie's son John, as well as Sheriff Lee Brackett hunting down Myers and drowning him in a frozen lake. Though it would have ended with it hinting that John was the new killer, because fans loved it so much when they did it with Jason and Freddy.
Fuck you.
Another script lingered around entitled Halloween Asylum, which would have followed Myers breaking free from death row, while another was called Halloween The Missing Years. Sounds like a Saved by the Bell spin-off.
I didn't know.
Which would have been a prequel focused on Michael returning to Smith's Grove in the early 1980s during the event of Halloween 3, the one we choose to forget, as he tried to move on from the memories of his childhood and the murder of his sister, because apparently the writers saw Psycho too.
What?
Akkad himself began working on a story instead focused on Dr. Wynn from Halloween 6, but it was in 2005 when Mustafa was tragically killed in the Amman hotel bombings, and all plans for a sequel came to an end. His son Malik continued things, but in a completely different direction. It was on June the 4th, 2006, when it was confirmed that it would be Rob Zombie pulling the strings on the new Halloween project. Writing, directing, producing, and supervising the music. Zombie had a tremendous deal of respect for John Carpenter, so he actually informed him before it was public, and Carpenter simply requested that he make it his own.
If you don't think I ain't making a mental list of all your fucking bullshit.
Initially, Zombie's plan was to be a part prequel, whilst also containing some elements of a remake with an original concept. It was also soon confirmed that it would be ignoring every sequel after the first film. Glad they'll never do that again.
I'm sorry.
Zombie was convinced that slasher villains like Myers, Freddy, Jason and Pinhead had become far too familiar to audiences and therefore less scary, so he planned on completely reinventing him. He wanted to dive into Michael's backstory and add a whole new life to the character. So remember how scary he was when he had no backstory? Well, forget all that.
Oh my goodness.
He wanted to give an explanation to everything, including why he wears the damn mask, so apparently Mr. Zombie completely misunderstood the whole point of the original film. Production finally began on January the 29th, 2007, but not without issues. Firstly, it received poor reactions in test screenings, which caused several reshoots. Furthermore, Zombie didn't want it to be a full-on remake, but as production went along, it became as such due to pressure from the producers who would urge him to copy the original. Just a few days prior to its release, a copy of the movie was leaked online and circulated around the internet. However, Zombie claimed that it was an older version of the film and not the copy that was about to come out. But this caused fear that the movie's box office gross would be greatly affected. However, it was released on August the 31st, 2007, why is it so difficult to release a movie called Halloween in October? And its opening day alone, it grossed $10.8 million, destroying the original Halloween 2, not to be confused with Halloween 2's, entire opening weekend in a single day. However, after that weekend, the movie saw a 71.6% drop in attendance. Sorry, Rob, sorry.
It's not good.
On a more tragic note, it supposedly inspired 17-year-old Jacob Evans to murder his mother and sister in October 2012. Once confessing, he admitted to have watched the movie 3 times on the week of the killings, but discarded it so people wouldn't blame the film on his actions. But then mentioned it in court so people would blame the film on his actions. In total, it managed to earn a worldwide gross of $80.2 million, making it the 6th highest grossing film in the franchise. Reviews themselves were mixed, some appreciating the backstory of Michael Myers, while others found it completely unnecessary. Die-hard fans of the original felt like it didn't need to be remade, while others considered it a new, interesting take on the character. And jokes aside, I genuinely believe Rob Zombie misunderstood the point of John Carpenter's film. I think he actually watched Halloween and was under the impression for some reason that Michael Myers was the hero. The first 5 minutes are crammed with nothing more than Hollywood's boner of trying to get us to sympathise with serial killers. Every trope in the book, you name it, everything that could possibly happen to this poor kid happens to this poor kid. He's got neglectful parents who loudly argue in front of him. Seriously, this is the most over-the-top evil stepdad in history. He mocks a baby for crying, stares at his underage stepdaughter's ass, which the camera also focuses on for some reason. I know the actress was 23, but still, it's weird.
Okay, I've had enough.
He even laughs when they find out the kid is torturing and murdering animals. His sister bullies him, he gets picked on at school, including by the principal. His mum's a stripper. Anything else, Rob? Anything else? Wanna have a bird shit on his face too? He murders all the people who did him wrong, and then he only escapes the asylum because he stops 2 douchebag hospital staff members from raping a patient. Why is Michael Myers the hero, Zombie, you weirdo? And he also clearly has no idea how teenagers speak.
Mr. Nichols touched me the wrong way.
Okay, what'd you do to him? Stroke him to death? Elvis.
Do teenage girls often mock their brother for wanking? In fact, all the bullies do is perv over his sister and mum. Why is everyone so damn horny in this film? Let's talk about Dr. Loomis. McDowell is a lot more reserved than Donald Pleasance. Yeah, no shit. He's fine, he's alright. He does show a lot more sympathy. I do like him, but he just lacks the charm and personality. There are points when he tries to channel Loomis with the exact same dialogue, but it doesn't quite land.
These eyes do not see what you and I see. A void. There was no conscience, no reason.
Was that the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, I do believe it was.
He struggles when he's needing to be more of a neurotic mess. That's where he just doesn't fit the part. John Hurt was considered at one point, and I think he would have been far better. But he does get genuinely amazing towards the end when he pleads to save Laurie's life. That being said, one thing this movie does better is the relationship between Michael and Loomis. At least here they do genuinely feel close, so when Myers goes off the deep end, it means more, and it's that more heartbreaking. My issue with the film is, I think, a lot of people's issue with the film. In fact, it could be compared to the likes of Joker in the sense that this didn't need to be a Michael Myers movie. It actually is quite an interesting deep dive into the mind of a serial killer. Trying to dive into his psyche to find out what makes him tick. You could easily make something similar based on a real serial killer, or just make an entirely new one up. When you're doing this based on a character we've seen in 7 other movies at this point, and whose whole appeal was based on his mystery, it defeats the whole purpose. In fact, the Carpenter theme music doesn't have nearly as much of an impact in this one because there is no mystery or intrigue. He's stalking the bully, but we already know him and his backstory. By the way, the body of this bully is never found. I guess he had no family or friends. Fuck him. Although fair play, the kid's acting is tremendous, as is young Myers. Oh, and his sister Judith shags a guy wearing a Shatner mask. I don't like people. That being said, the revenge murders are actually really well done. He tapes down his stepfather and kills him, and it's severely disturbing. So much so, the studio initially were going to remove or tone down the scene, but after Zombie's insistence, it was kept as it is. Good thing Judith puts her headphones on immediately after sex, though. I do that all the time. I don't know about you. There is an amazing shot of a young Michael creeping on Judith's boyfriend, but what the hell did he do? I mean, I guess it was a bit rude, but I don't think he needed to die, Michael. Calm down. There's also nothing to the mask anymore. Zombie actually did the opposite of what he intended. There's no mystique. Michael has this thing where he designs his own masks, so when he finally does the Shatner one, it means nothing. The thing is, a child in a clown mask can kind of work to be creepy creepy and scary. Like, genuinely, sometimes it's scary as shit. But when it's a big, butch Undertaker knockoff, it just looks hilarious. In a morbid way, he relates to his younger sister, who, by the way, in the movie is called Angel. Yeah, Rob Zombie isn't the most subtle, is he? Surprised Michael wasn't renamed as Lucifer. I mean, disregarding the over-the-top bullies and relatives and main crux of the story, Myers tortures a man at one point, waterboarding him, but that wasn't enough, so he drops a damn TV on his face. John Carpenter has him stealthily sneak around and pick off his victims, but Zombie has him just burst right in. And his dialogue is just as subtle.
I really don't appreciate being called out of my favorite watering hole to come down a fucking graveyard shift. If you do me dirt on this one, I'll fucking hold it against you.
Hey, you know what? I'll fuck her. You don't want to fuck her? I'll fuck her.
But he relates to Angels, he was abused himself and doesn't want it happening to her, which is quite a strong scene. In fact, the entire first half an hour is a really powerful opening, even if they try to mimic the beginning of the Carpenter one, which really doesn't work. Young Michael is so damn creepy as he acts completely normal. He claims to not remember the murders and denounces responsibility, but then surely shouldn't he be wondering, why the hell you guys got me locked up? And why on earth would they give a killer steel cutlery and then leave a nurse alone with him? What the hell did you think would happen, you loonies? This is the problem. He's giving off Ed Gein vibes. The way they're portraying the character is very accurate to a real serial killer, so don't make it about Michael Myers. It is really heartbreaking as his mother watches old home videos, naturally blaming herself, and then takes her own life. But why the hell would the staff members even attempt to antagonize Michael Myers in the first place? Oh hey, Keenan's dad is in this! And yeah, he dies on the shitter having a wank. Keenan's dad. There's just nothing special about it, really. It's not a bad film per se, it's just Michael walking around randomly killing random people. The throwbacks are so lazy, from playing Mr. Sandman to trying to recreate exact shots but they just don't land the same way. Although this was at the exact same location as Laurie's house in the original, which is a nice touch. It just doesn't mean anything when he gets the Shatner mask because he makes them all the damn time, so what makes this one so damn special? What, because his sister shagged a fella in it once? Laurie's mum is the bird from The Frighteners, a cop is that geezer from The Waterboy, and her best friend Annie is played by Danielle Harris, and it is pretty cool to see her return to the franchise, so the casting is pretty good. And her dad is Chucky. Not sure why Rob Zombie cast his own wife as a serial killer stripper mother who shoots herself in the head, but I digress. Also, it's supposed to be set in the 70s or 80s despite clearly not looking it, but they also try to recreate the outdated dialogue and it's painful.
You're totally a slut.
Yeah. Anyway, today in class, in French class, Mr. Leclerc was totally flirting with me.
Totally. Scott Taylor Compton is fine as Laurie, but I don't know. Jamie Lee Curtis was this wholesome, innocent, likeable virgin, but Laurie here is just a bit of an annoying bitch. Then again, wouldn't that make her more of a realistic teenager? I'm so confused. The biggest question, which is never answered throughout the entire movie, is how the hell Michael even knows that Laurie is his sister. Apparently one cop saved the baby and covered up her identity and nobody else ever found out, so how the hell does Michael know? I mean, he sniffs a letter she posts at one point. Does she smell exactly the same as when she was a baby? The movie also decided that it wasn't enough just for Michael to somehow transport a gravestone across town completely undetected, but he also decided to kill an animal and display it around it as well. At least they learned the lesson now with a stupid bedsheet. Yeah, this time it's the dumb boyfriend who wears it instead of oh, god damn, it's so close. Then again, maybe it makes more sense in this version because Michael likes to hide behind masks. Then again, no, it doesn't work because he's already wearing a mask. No, it's stupid, it makes no sense. They also sometimes just linger pointlessly on shots like, see, we're Halloween. It is very accurate though, as McDowell, who isn't a US citizen, is able to walk into a gun store and still buy a firearm. But I guess Michael's transition into Jason Voorhees is complete as he can now teleport. Although in this version it makes even less sense for the cops to not believe Loomis, considering Michael is a known maniac who's butchering everyone, and they're still like, nah, can't be Mike. I guess Annie's door is completely soundproof. At least the kids, Tommy and Lindsay, have a bit more character, I suppose, and their performances are amazing, even if Michael Myers is back to being RoboCop. I will credit Rob Zombie though. There are some truly astounding shots in this film, and this is one of them. Okay, well played, you very, very strange man.
Run home! Go call the police!
That is her home, Laurie. But it turns out he doesn't even want to kill Laurie, he just wants a hug, I guess, and she passes out between shots apparently. And originally Zombie was going to have Michael speak to Laurie, but he changed his mind at the last minute. Michael Myers speaking. Ridiculous idea. And considering Laurie calls the cops to come to Annie's house and Loomis and Chucky are 10 minutes away and still manage to get there before anyone else, by that point Laurie is back at her own house and the cops still show up there. The original film was so unique and creative, but towards the third act, this one just falls into a generic crime thriller. And it still continues having Myers being able to carry bodies from one place to another somehow completely undetected. Admittedly, it is quite suspenseful as he lurks around trying to find her, even if it is a miserable film to look at. Everything is grey and black. But weirdly, in a movie that's supposed to be grounded in reality, Laurie fully stabs him in the neck and he survives. He gets shot and survives. I won't say it's bollocks that he falls off a balcony and survives, but I will say it's bollocks that Laurie falls off a balcony and survives. And he gets shot at point blank range in the head just to make sure he's dead. Yeah, I'm glad they won't do another one then. Halloween, not to be confused with Halloween or Halloween, is okay. It's alright. It has some great ideas as far as the psyche of a serial killer goes, and the characterization between Myers and Loomis is pretty well handled. The social commentary on it is actually pretty good, but it shouldn't have been a Michael Myers movie. The throwbacks are lazy and don't work, and it just doesn't really have much of an identity. It tries to copy the original, but then just veers off into complete insanity. That being said, the production is great and the acting phenomenal, but it's just one that shouldn't exist in the first place.